Maya Thompson stepped out of her modest Honda Civic and took a deep breath as she looked at the gleaming glass facade of Prestige Motors, the city's most exclusive luxury car dealership. At 22 years old, she had worked 3 jobs throughout college and saved every penny she could. After graduating with honors from business school, she had finally landed her dream position at a prestigious consulting firm. Today was supposed to be a celebration, the day she would buy her first luxury car with her own hard-earned money. The parking lot was filled with stunning vehicles that cost more than most people's homes. Bentleys, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Maseratis sat gleaming under the afternoon sun. Maya had done her research thoroughly. She knew exactly what she wanted, a sleek black BMW M4 that she had been dreaming about for years. She had the down payment ready, her credit was excellent, and her new salary could easily handle the monthly payments. As she walked toward the entrance, Maya noticed how other customers were being greeted. A middle-aged white man in a casual polo shirt was immediately approached by 3 sales representatives, all eager to assist him. A young white woman browsing near a red convertible had 2 salespeople competing for her attention. The energy inside the showroom was electric, with staff members practically fighting over potential customers. Maya pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped inside. The showroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the floor was made of polished marble that reflected the stunning cars positioned throughout the space. Soft classical music played in the background, and the air carried the scent of expensive leather and new car smell. She stood near the entrance for several minutes, waiting for someone to acknowledge her presence. Sales representatives walked past her repeatedly, making eye contact but continuing on their way. Some glanced at her simple jeans and sweater with what appeared to be dismissive looks. Others seemed to look right through her as if she were invisible. After 15 minutes of being ignored, Maya decided to approach someone directly. She walked over to a salesman who was standing near a display of luxury watches, apparently having finished with his previous customer. "Excuse me," Maya said politely, extending her hand with a warm smile. "I'm interested in purchasing a BMW M4. Could you help me with some information?" The salesman, whose name tag read Brad Mitchell, looked her up and down slowly. His expression was skeptical and he didn't return her handshake. "Are you looking for our used car lot?" he asked condescendingly. "That's actually located about 2 miles down the road. This is our luxury showroom." Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger, but she maintained her composure. "No, I'm looking to purchase a new BMW M4. I've done my research and I'm ready to make a deal today." Brad let out a small laugh and shook his head. "Look, miss, these cars start at around $80,000. Maybe you should consider something more in your price range. There's a Toyota dealership just across the street that might be more suitable." "I understand the price point," Maya replied firmly. "I have excellent credit, stable employment, and I'm prepared to make a substantial down payment today. May I please speak with a manager?" Brad's expression hardened. "The manager is very busy with serious customers. I really think you'd be happier looking elsewhere. These vehicles require extensive background checks and financial verification. It's really quite a lengthy process." Maya could feel the stares of other customers and staff members. The humiliation was overwhelming, but she refused to back down. "I'd like to see the BMW section, please. I'm a paying customer, and I have every right to browse your inventory." "Listen," Brad said, lowering his voice but speaking harshly. "You're making other customers uncomfortable. This isn't the place for people like you. Why don't you just leave before this becomes a bigger issue?" The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She looked around the showroom and realized that she was indeed the only black person in the entire building. The other customers were staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Some were whispering to their companions while looking in her direction. Maya's hands trembled with rage and hurt, but she held her head high. "People like me?" she repeated quietly. "You mean educated, employed people who can afford your cars? Or do you mean black people?" Brad's face reddened. "I mean people who clearly don't belong in an establishment like this." Now please leave before I have to call security." Just then, another salesperson approached. This was an older woman named Patricia, according to her name tag, and she seemed slightly more professional than Brad. "Is there a problem here?" Patricia asked, though her tone suggested she was already siding with her colleague. "This young lady is insisting on browsing our inventory despite our explanations about our clientele and price points," Brad explained. Patricia looked Maya over with the same dismissive expression. "Miss, our vehicles require serious financial commitment. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the more affordable dealerships in town." Maya felt tears threatening to spill, but she refused to cry in front of these people. "I have a degree in business from State University, where I graduated summa cum laude. I work for Henderson and Associates consulting firm, and my starting salary is $120,000 per year. I have $30,000 cash for a down payment, and my credit score is 785. Now, would someone please show me the BMW section?" The two salespeople exchanged glances. Patricia whispered something to Brad, who shrugged and walked away. Patricia turned back to Maya with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, if you're truly serious about making a purchase today, I suppose we could take a quick look. But I should warn you that our financing requirements are quite strict, and the approval process can take several days." Maya followed Patricia toward the back of the showroom, where the BMW models were displayed. Along the way, she noticed other staff members watching her with suspicious eyes. Some were whispering into their headsets, probably alerting security about her presence. The BMW section was stunning. Several models were positioned under perfect lighting, their paint jobs gleaming like liquid metal. Maya's eyes immediately found the exact car she had been dreaming about, a midnight black M4 with cream leather interior. "This is the one," Maya said, walking toward the vehicle. "May I sit inside?" Patricia hesitated. "These interiors are very delicate. The leather can be damaged easily by certain materials in clothing." Maya looked down at her clean jeans and soft cotton sweater, confused by the comment. "I'm wearing regular clothes." "I don't understand the concern." "Well, some fabrics can leave marks or transfer colors," Patricia said vaguely. "Perhaps we could just look at the specifications sheet instead." Maya realized what was happening. They were treating her like she was dirty or somehow beneath their standards. The humiliation was becoming unbearable, but she was determined not to let them break her spirit. "I'd like to test drive this vehicle," Maya said firmly. "And I want to speak with your manager about financing options." Patricia's smile disappeared entirely. "Test drives require extensive paperwork and insurance verification. It's really quite complicated. And our manager is in meetings all afternoon." Maya pulled out her phone and took a picture of the car's information sticker. "What's your manager's name?" "I'd like to schedule an appointment." "Mr. Richardson doesn't typically meet with walk-in customers," Patricia replied coldly. "Especially for customers who haven't been pre-qualified through our financial department." "Then how do I get pre-qualified?" Maya asked, her patience wearing thin. Patricia handed her a business card. "You can call our finance department during business hours next week. They'll explain the requirements and schedule an appointment if you meet the initial criteria." Maya stared at the card in disbelief. "You're telling me that I can't even begin the car buying process today? Other customers are clearly purchasing vehicles right now." "Those customers have established relationships with our dealership," Patricia explained dismissively. "They've been working with us for months or even years. This isn't the kind of place where people just walk in off the street." Maya felt her anger reaching a boiling point. She looked around and saw Brad helping a young white couple who had arrived after her. They were already sitting in a Porsche, with Brad enthusiastically explaining the features and offering them keys for a test drive. "I see," Maya said quietly. "So this is about establishing relationships and following proper procedures?" "Exactly," Patricia said, seeming relieved that Maya finally understood. "And it has nothing to do with my race?" Patricia's face flushed. "Of course not. We serve customers of all backgrounds. We simply have standards and procedures that everyone must follow." Maya nodded slowly, her mind working quickly. She had faced discrimination before, but never so blatantly or publicly. The entire experience felt surreal, like something from a different era that shouldn't exist in the modern world. "Thank you for your time," Maya said finally. "I'll be sure to tell everyone about the exceptional customer service I received here today." Patricia's expression tightened with concern. "Now, there's no need for any negative reviews or complaints. We've been perfectly professional." Maya smiled coldly. "Oh, don't worry. I'll be very honest about exactly." Marcus Thompson was sitting in his corner office on the 42nd floor of Thompson Industries Tower when his phone buzzed with a notification. He was in the middle of reviewing quarterly reports for his automotive empire, which included 17 luxury car dealerships across 3 states. When he saw his daughter's Instagram post pop up on his screen, at 55 years old, Marcus had built Thompson Automotive Group from a single used car lot into one of the largest luxury automotive networks in the region. His company held exclusive dealership rights for Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, and several other premium brands. He was worth over $2 billion, though he had always kept his wealth relatively private, preferring to let his business success speak for itself. Marcus had raised Maya as a single father after her mother passed away when Maya was just 8 years old. He had always encouraged her to be independent and work for everything she achieved. He had paid for her education and supported her dreams, but he had insisted that she build her own career and financial independence. Maya knew her father was successful, but she had no idea about the true scope of his wealth or influence. As Marcus read Maya's detailed account of what had happened at Prestige Motors, his expression grew darker with each sentence. He recognized the dealership name immediately. It was one of his biggest competitors, and he had been considering acquiring them for years. The owner, Robert Harrison, had always been arrogant and dismissive toward Marcus, making several racist comments during industry events that Marcus had chosen to overlook for the sake of business relationships. Marcus picked up his phone and called his personal assistant, Jennifer Walsh. "Jun, I need you to pull all the files we have on Prestige Motors. Financial statements, loan documents, supplier contracts, everything we can legally access. And I want you to arrange a meeting with Robert Harrison tomorrow morning." "Certainly, Mr. Thompson. May I ask what this is regarding?" Marcus's voice was cold and controlled. "They made a serious mistake yesterday. They discriminated against my daughter, and now they're going to learn about consequences." Jennifer had worked for Marcus for 15 years and had never heard that tone in his voice. She knew better than to ask questions when he sounded like that. "I'll have everything ready within the hour, and I'll contact Mr. Harrison's office immediately." After ending the call, Marcus spent the next 2 hours researching Prestige Motors thoroughly. What he discovered made his plan even more satisfying. The dealership was heavily in debt, behind on several major loans, and desperately needed the manufacturer support that Marcus's company could influence. Robert Harrison had overextended himself trying to compete with Marcus's empire, and now his business was hanging by a thread. Marcus also discovered that Prestige Motors held dealership agreements for 3 brands that Thompson Automotive Group had exclusive regional rights to negotiate. With a few phone calls, Marcus could effectively shut down Harrison's access to luxury inventory, killing his business within months. But Marcus wanted something more personal than just business destruction. He wanted Harrison and his staff to understand exactly what they had done and who they had discriminated against. He wanted them to feel the weight of their prejudice in a way they would never forget. Marcus made a series of phone calls that evening. He spoke with the regional managers for BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi, all of whom owed their positions to Marcus's influence and recommendations. He contacted the presidents of 3 major banks that held Harrison's business loans. He reached out to the luxury car transport company that delivered vehicles to dealerships across the region. By midnight, Marcus had quietly arranged for a series of coincidental problems to begin affecting Prestige Motors' business operations. Deliveries would be delayed, financing would become more difficult, and manufacturer support would mysteriously become less available. The next morning, Maya woke up to thousands of notifications on her phone. Her story had gone viral overnight. with major news outlets picking up the story and civil rights organizations reaching out to offer support. The hashtag Prestige Motors racism was trending on Twitter, and the dealership's Yelp page had been flooded with one-star reviews from people expressing outrage. Maya was amazed by the response, but also emotionally drained from reliving the experience over and over as she responded to interviews and comments. She had no idea that her father was about to take action that would make her viral story seem small in comparison. At exactly 9 o'clock that morning, Marcus Thompson pulled into the parking lot of Prestige Motors driving his newest acquisition, a custom Rolls-Royce Phantom worth over $400,000. The car was midnight black with chrome accents, and the interior was finished in hand-stitched cream leather with gold trim. It was one of only 50 such vehicles in the world. Marcus stepped out of the Rolls-Royce wearing an impeccably tailored charcoal gray suit that cost more than most people's annual salary. His shoes were custom Italian leather, and his watch was a limited edition Patek Philippe worth more than a house. At 6 feet 2 inches tall with graying temples and a commanding presence, Marcus looked like exactly what he was, a man accustomed to power and respect. Several customers in the parking lot stopped what they were doing to stare at the spectacular vehicle and its obviously wealthy driver. Inside the showroom, Brad Mitchell noticed the Rolls-Royce immediately and practically sprinted toward the entrance, with 3 other salespeople close behind him. "Good morning, sir," Brad said breathlessly as Marcus entered the showroom. "Welcome to Prestige Motors. I'm Brad Mitchell, Senior Sales Consultant. That is an absolutely stunning Rolls-Royce. How may I assist you today?" Marcus looked around the showroom slowly, his expression neutral but his eyes taking in every detail. He spotted Patricia near the BMW section and remembered Maya's description of both employees perfectly. "I'm looking for the manager," Marcus said calmly. "I have some business to discuss with Robert Harrison." "Of course, sir. Mr. Harrison is available immediately. May I offer you some coffee or champagne while you wait? We have a VIP lounge that would be perfect for a gentleman of your obvious stature." Marcus smiled coldly. "How interesting. Yesterday, someone told me that Mr. Harrison was too busy with serious customers to meet with walk-ins. Has his schedule cleared up dramatically overnight?" Brad looked confused but maintained his enthusiastic demeanor. "Oh, no, sir. Mr. Harrison always makes time for distinguished clients. May I get your name so I can announce you?" "Marcus Thompson, Thompson Automotive Group." The color drained from Brad's face as recognition dawned. Every person in the luxury car business knew Marcus Thompson's name. He was a legend in the industry, known for his business acumen and his ability to make or break careers with a single phone call. Mr. Thompson," Brad stammered. "I'll get Mr. Harrison immediately. Please make yourself comfortable in our VIP lounge." Marcus shook his head. "I'll wait right here." "In the same spot where my daughter stood yesterday when your staff treated her like garbage." Brad's eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. "Your daughter, sir?" "Maya Thompson. The young black woman who came in here yesterday with excellent credit, a high-paying job, and cash for a down payment, only to be told she didn't belong here and should try the Toyota dealership across the street." Word spread through the showroom like wildfire. Within minutes, every employee knew that the father of the woman from the viral discrimination story was standing in their lobby, and he was one of the most powerful men in the automotive industry. Robert Harrison emerged from his office looking pale and nervous. He was a heavy-set man in his 60s with thinning hair and a permanently red face that turned even redder when he was stressed. He had built his reputation on aggressive sales tactics and exclusionary practices that kept out customers he considered undesirable. "Mr. Thompson," Harrison said, extending his hand with a forced smile. "What an unexpected pleasure. To what do I owe this visit?" Marcus looked at Harrison's outstretched hand but didn't shake it. "I think you know exactly why I'm here, Robert. Your staff discriminated against my daughter yesterday, and now we're going to discuss the consequences." Harrison's smile faltered. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. We pride ourselves on professional customer service for all our clients. Really? Marcus pulled out his phone and began reading from Maya's post. Let me share some quotes from your professional staff. Brad Mitchell told my daughter, maybe you should consider something more in your price range. There's a Toyota dealership just across the street that might be more suitable. He also said, this isn't the place for people like you, and you're making other customers uncomfortable. Harrison shot a furious look at Brad, who was standing nearby looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Marcus continued reading. Patricia Williams told my daughter that her clothing might damage your delicate leather interiors and that your manager doesn't meet with walk-in customers. She also said that established customers work with you for months or years before making purchases. Mr. Thompson, I'm deeply sorry for any miscommunication, Harrison said desperately. These incidents don't represent our values or our training. I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor. Within 6 hours of Marcus Thompson's visit to Prestige Motors, Robert Harrison's business empire began collapsing like a house of cards. The first blow came at 2 o'clock that afternoon when BMW's regional manager called to inform Harrison that his dealership agreement was being terminated due to failure to meet company standards for customer service and brand representation. Harrison was sitting in his office, still shaking from his encounter with Marcus, when the call came. This is impossible, he protested. We've had this agreement for 12 years. You can't just terminate it without cause. The BMW manager's voice was professionally cold. Mr. Harrison, we've received reports of discriminatory practices at your dealership that directly violate BMW's corporate values and policies. We take these matters very seriously. Your agreement will be terminated in 30 days and will be reclaiming all demo vehicles and promotional materials immediately. Before Harrison could respond, the line went dead. He sat staring at the phone in disbelief. The BMW franchise represented 40% of his annual revenue. Losing it would be devastating, but he told himself it was just one manufacturer. He could survive this. 20 minutes later, Mercedes-Benz called with identical news. Then Audi, by 5 o'clock. Harrison had lost agreements with 4 major luxury brands that together represented 75% of his business. Each manufacturer cited the viral story about Maya's treatment and the company's commitment to inclusive customer service, but the financial devastation was only beginning. At 6 o'clock, Harrison received a call from First National Bank, where Prestige Motors held its primary business loans totaling $8 million. Mr. Harrison, this is David Chun from First National's Commercial Lending Department. We need to discuss your account status immediately. Harrison's stomach dropped. What about my account status? All our payments are current. Yes, but we've received information that raises concerns about your business practices and potential legal liabilities. We're going to need you to come in tomorrow morning to discuss restructuring your loan agreements. Restructuring? What kind of restructuring? We'll need to review your collateral requirements and possibly adjust your interest rates to reflect the increased risk profile of your business. We'll also need to discuss accelerated payment schedules for your outstanding balances. Harrison hung up the phone and put his head in his hands. Marcus Thompson hadn't just threatened him. He was systematically destroying everything Harrison had built over 20 years. Meanwhile, news of the confrontation at Prestige Motors was spreading through social media and local news outlets like wildfire. Maya's original story had been shared over 50,000 times, but videos of Marcus's visit to the dealership were going viral even faster. Multiple customers had recorded parts of his speech, and the footage was being broadcast on television news programs across the region. Maya was at home watching the coverage when her father called her. "Dad, what did you do?" she asked as soon as she answered the phone. Marcus chuckled softly. "I reminded some people that actions have consequences, sweetheart. How are you feeling about everything?" "I'm overwhelmed," Maya admitted. "I never expected my story to blow up like this. And I had no idea you were so powerful in the automotive industry." Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I wanted you to succeed on your own merit, not because of my connections or wealth. You earned everything you've achieved through your own hard work, and I'm incredibly proud of you for that. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. But if I had known, maybe I could have avoided that whole humiliating experience. No, baby, Marcus said firmly. What happened to you happens to successful black people every day, regardless of their connections or wealth. The only difference is that this time, the people who did it picked on the wrong family. They're about to learn that respect isn't negotiable. The next morning, Harrison arrived at his dealership to find a crowd of protesters gathered outside. Civil rights organizations had organized a demonstration, and local news crews were interviewing participants about discrimination in the automotive industry. Signs reading "Justice for Maya" and "End Racism at Prestige Motors" were visible everywhere. Inside the showroom, Harrison's staff was in chaos. Brad Mitchell and Patricia Williams had both called in sick, unwilling to face the media attention and public backlash. 3 other employees had submitted resignation letters, afraid that their association with the dealership would damage their careers. Harrison's secretary, Linda, met him at the door with a stack of messages and a worried expression. "Mr. Harrison, we've had over 200 phone calls since yesterday. Most of them are cancellations or people wanting to express their disgust with how Maya Thompson was treated." Harrison grabbed the messages and flipped through them. Canceled orders totaling over $2 million. Angry customers demanding refunds for recent purchases. Threats of lawsuits and boycotts? It was a nightmare beyond his worst fears. "There's more," Linda continued reluctantly. "The car transport company called this morning. They're suspending all deliveries to our dealership pending an investigation into our business practices. And our insurance company wants to meet about our liability coverage." Harrison felt like he was drowning. Every aspect of his business was under attack, and there seemed to be no way to stop the bleeding. He retreated to his office and tried to call Marcus Thompson directly, but his assistant informed him that Mr. Thompson was unavailable and would not be taking calls from Prestige Motors. At noon, Harrison received the call that would seal his fate. It was from the property management company that owned his building. "Mr. Harrison, this is Margaret Foster from Pinnacle Property Management. We need to discuss your lease agreement immediately." "What about my lease?" "We've never missed a payment, and we have 3 years remaining on our contract." "Yes, but your lease includes a moral turpitude clause that allows for termination if the tenant's business practices reflect poorly on the property or other tenants. Given the current media coverage and public protests, we're activating that clause." Harrison's blood ran cold. "You're evicting me?" "We're providing you with 30 days' notice to vacate the premises. We'll also need to discuss liability for lost rental income and property damage from the protests." Harrison hung up and stared out his window at the growing crowd of protesters. He realized that Marcus Thompson hadn't just attacked his business, he had destroyed it completely and systematically. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every dependence that Harrison's company had was being exploited simultaneously. That evening, Harrison swallowed his pride and drove to Thompson Industries Tower. He took the elevator to the 42nd floor and asked to see Marcus Thompson personally. "Mr. Thompson is in a meeting," Jennifer Walsh informed him coolly. "He's not available for unscheduled appointments." "Please," Harrison begged. "Just 5 minutes. I need to make this right." Jennifer studied him for a moment, then picked up her phone. After a brief conversation, she gestured toward Marcus's office. "He'll see you now." Harrison walked into the massive corner office and found Marcus sitting behind an enormous desk, looking completely calm and controlled. The contrast with Harrison's own panicked state was stark. "Robert," Marcus said without standing up, "I understand you wanted to see me." Harrison sat down heavily in the chair across from Marcus's desk. "Marcus, please. You've made your point. My business is destroyed. I'm going to lose everything. Isn't that enough?" Marcus leaned back in his chair and studied Harrison carefully. "Tell me, Robert, when my daughter walked into your showroom yesterday, what did you see?" I wasn't there when she came in, but you trained your staff. You created the culture that made them think it was acceptable to treat a qualified customer like garbage because of her skin color. So I'll ask again, what did you see when you looked at my daughter? Harrison shifted uncomfortably. I think there was a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Marcus interrupted. Your staff saw a young black woman and immediately assumed she didn't belong in your establishment. They saw someone they could dismiss and disrespect without consequences. They were wrong about the consequences. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand what it feels like to be judged and dismissed based on something you can't control. I want you to experience the powerlessness that my daughter felt when your staff treated her like she was less than human. But I'll lose everything, Harrison protested. 20 years of work gone. Marcus's expression didn't change. And how long do you think it took my ancestors to build what they lost to people who thought they didn't deserve respect or opportunity? How many black families have lost everything because of discrimination and prejudice? The weight of Marcus's words settled over Harrison like a heavy blanket. For the first time, he began to understand the broader implications of what his dealership's actions represented. However, Marcus continued, I'm not interested in destroying you just for the sake of destruction. I'm interested in creating change. Real, meaningful change. Harrison looked up hopefully. What kind of change? I'm going to buy your dealership, Robert. For a fraction of what it was worth a week ago, of course.